Give it up for Precious. Let's go.
No. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna check it. Let me check. Oh, sorry.
Good morning! Good morning! Let's get it louder. Good morning! Morning! All right, just need the slides up and we're ready to go. I had only $25 for groceries. Yes, $25 for groceries for an entire month. This was 2014, the final year of my bachelor's program at SFU, Simon Fraser University. Now, you're probably wondering about the story. I had so many people who I could reach out. In fact, a network of people who, if I called them, they would readily meet my needs, but I held back from reaching out. And you're probably wondering why. Now, raise your hand if you've ever heard someone say they hate the word networking. Keep your hand up if you've heard someone say networking feels salesy, feels pushy. You see, for me, those are not the specific words that came to mind. For me, networking felt burdensome. Like I was only reaching out when I needed something from somebody. Perhaps you may have felt that way. You needed that next job, that promotion, or that next business deal. That's why I held back from reaching out. Now, interestingly, I was in a very difficult spot. I had only rice left, and so I cooked what I had. Interestingly, after waiting for what seemed like forever, the rice was done, but something was wrong. I had over-salted the food, and it was inedible. I sat down on my kitchen floor, completely bewildered. I said a gentle prayer, asking the Lord to step into the situation, to do something different. It was my last meal. I felt a pinch in my stomach. The irony, I had to toss the food that I had into the garbage. The garbage was full, my stomach was empty. In that moment, I remember the story of Elijah and the withered Zarephath, 1 Kings 17. And in that story, she was going to make the only meal that she had left. But she was challenged to look beyond herself and to think about other people, Elijah, to feed him. Well, I thought, Lord, I hope that you can make something beautiful out of this experience to help me be a blessing, even when I felt like I had nothing to offer. Interestingly, the Lord answered. A friend called me, letting me know that she was moving to a different city and asked me if I wanted some rice and spices. It was the perfect offer. Wow. And I got to host my first dinner. You see, seeing my friends talk to each other, support each other, and recount old times made me realize what networking truly is. Networking changed. I started to see networking as how we connect and communicate, not just at formal networking events. In fact, networking is building authentic connections in everyday interactions. Now, Mythbuster. Some people think that networking is a skill that some people possess and others don't. You are a born networker. You network when you don't even realize it. At a golf game, at a dinner party, at a bridal shower, even after church service, surprisingly. And what I even realize about networking is that we are wired for networking. We do it every day, everywhere, and all the time. Now, I took a step back to ask the question, if that's what we do, and we're born to do this, we're not just social beings, we're also spiritual beings. How might we take that fear out of networking to network with confidence in the marketplace to serve God's kingdom purpose? We don't need the same script about having a 30-second pitch about your business. We need a different playbook, one that isn't so much about confidence, but about authenticity, being who God has called you to be. See, as a management consultant, I often draw insights from data to help teams set their business direction, to create the vision, the mission, the vision, and your goals. I'm also a public speaker, and I coach executives, entrepreneurs, on how to tell their story, to take the fear out of whatever they're feeling and really overcome that fear to communicate with confidence. Now, you might be wondering, what do these things have in common? Relationships. At the heart of every interaction that I have with my clients is building authentic connections with them, so I can reach beyond the person sitting in front of me, the teams that I'm talking to really reach inside their souls to understand what they really need. Now, this time, I thought to myself, I'm going to create that playbook on networking. And so I thought through my experiences in life, and I thought, how might I bring something like that together? Now, something that you may not know about me is I love hosting people. I love hosting dinner parties. In fact, I hosted 40 dinner parties in 2 years. 40 dinner parties in 2 years. I had over 150 people. Oftentimes, a number of those people were strangers who walked into my door and I was meeting for the first time. Now, 3 key lessons emerged from my hosting experiences, and I thought there must be something that connects hosting to networking. And those key 3 lessons are in the word networking. Has anybody heard of the NET strategy, N-E-T? Put your hand up. Excellent. It's something you already know. It's hidden right inside. The N is a need. The E is an expression. And the T is a token or something of value. First, when you're networking, find a need. Like my $25 story, everyone has a need. You see, don't treat networking like it's a one-time experience where it's a pitch. Approach it like it's a process. It's a relationship building process where your singular goal is to find out what the other person cares about. Next, be authentic in how you express yourself. You've heard the popular saying, it's not just what you say that counts, it's how you say it that matters. And similarly with networking, it's not just what you offer, it's how you offer it that matters. And finally, offer a token or something of value. Your token is your currency for connecting with people in the marketplace. You see, you might not have $25, or you might even have way more than $25. But I believe that every single person in this room can offer a lot with little. You could offer an introduction, a referral, the gift of your time, or a different perspective to solve a business problem, which you perhaps already do in some shape or form. Now, of all these three things, finding a need, being authentic about how you express yourself, and offering that token as something of value, the hardest and perhaps the most challenging of all these pieces, the most important, is being yourself. It's being authentic. And that's because it requires us to reflect deeply about who we are and how God has made us to be. You see, what makes networking uncomfortable sometimes is that we all assume that we should act like everybody else. We should be super confident. We should be that person who walks into the room and talks to everybody and has that really snappy conversation. But that's not being authentic. I went back again into those 40 dinners, into the 150 plus people I had hosted in 2 years, and I asked myself a question. What were some of the patterns that were emerging in the conversation patterns of the strangers and guests that I had hosted? And interestingly, 5 different kinds of people emerged, and I bet you they're in this room right now. You're probably one of them. 5 unique networking styles. First, the curious, the connector, the contrarian, and the listener, as well as the closer. You've already been networking right before this conversation, and you will be at lunch shortly. As I go through each of these styles, I'm going to invite you to ask yourself and reflect on 2 questions. How do I show up when I network and connect with people? Who am I when I network? Now, interestingly, this is not one of those things where you fit into one perfect box. You can be multiple of these things, and that's okay. The first one, starting with the connector. You network by connecting with people. You know, my friend Enoch, interestingly, was one of the people who was at my dinner party. He walks into the room, and he knows nearly half the room. You know, there were people I wanted to connect him with, and suddenly I realized that he already either knew them or had heard of them. You see, if you're that person who notices that you're often connecting with people, making those introductions and connections, you might just be a connector. Now, you can also be a connector, but you don't have to be a social butterfly to do that. You may feel socially anxious and still be that connector. Now, you're probably looking at the connector and you're thinking, I wonder if that should be me. I would love to be that person. Well, you might just be the curious networker. The curious networker is that person who, for some reason, is just really great at keeping the conversation going. They know the questions to ask, and they know how to connect with people, and you can be curious and quiet. Or you could also be a contrarian. Now, contrarians love to keep a conversation spicy. They're the person who feels comfortable disagreeing, offering new points of view. And oftentimes, contrarians might be listening to this conversation and thinking, wait a minute, that's not networking, I'm just having a debate. Well, you might just be a networker because you help us connect beyond people who are similar to us, people who are different from us. You help us connect beyond our echo chambers. Now, not all networkers love to talk about themselves, so you might just be a listener. The listener connects by really listening in on the conversation. For them, networking It's not about talking in volume, it's about the quality, not the quantity of interactions. And finally, you might be the closer. You probably know that person who just keeps quiet throughout the entire conversation. And you wonder, are they really listening or are they really contributing? The closers network by reflecting. They invite us to reflect in silence when we communicate. And interestingly, just as everybody's walking out of the room, that's when the closer starts to get into the conversation. But that's okay, because they reflect all the perspectives that they've been listening to throughout the conversation. Now let's take a pause. Of all the styles, the connector, the curious, the contrarian, the listener, and the closer, raise your hand if you connected with one or more of these styles. Congratulations! You already have what it takes to network. It's not as complicated. You see, as you go forth into lunch to enjoy that next conversation, remember that networking doesn't have to be salesy. If you focus on finding a need, being authentic about how you express yourself, and of course, offering something that somebody else needs. I'm going to leave you with one closing call to action. Embrace who God has called you to be. Embrace your unique style of communicating. And network with purpose. Thank you.